Welcome to another episode of Tyler's Yarns. Today we got Ali, he's been on here before. Do you want to do a little introduction?
Yeah, morning everyone. Ali from What Comes Around Vintage. For those who don't know me, I kind of specialise in sportswear and Nike stuff on my Instagram. And yeah, happy to be here as a more regular guest for the future, which would be cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool because we're going to be obviously talking about a vintage a lot. Like, we're obviously going to have other interviews and stuff like that, but like, I think when I'm talking about vintage, it's easier to sort of like bounce off someone, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I think that sort of like, yeah, makes it easier and makes it more like engaging for everyone, especially when we're like two people sort of know a lot what they're sort of talking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally agree.
To start us off, what's one good thing that happened in your week this week?
One good thing that happened in my week this week? Well, actually, probably I copped something which wasn't like sportswear Nike related, but something that I really liked off some guys, the Wild Merchant in Sydney, but this like super cool old mock World War, well, no, it wasn't World War II. I think it was just like a kind of army, but it was like with all pencil stencil drawings on it. So I was really happy to cop that. Also, working with you on a Saturday for a few hours this Saturday, which was a surprise after seeing you at Fitzroy Market. Yeah. But that was super cool. Good to see it busy. Good to catch up with some people. Saw Amon Vintage who had come down from Sydney. So yeah, some cool little highlights of the week and just been pottering around really. So
have you had any op shop finds this week?
Yeah, there's still like a few things coming through. Like a lot of it this week was probably more like. What did I find this week? A cool NBA McDonald's cap, which already sold. What else was there? Metallica tee. Wasn't all that old, but it was only $2. And I think it's about to sell. I left it in the Camberwell. Oh, I did Camberwell as well, which was fun. But yeah, probably going to head to the ops after this, so I'll be able to report back as well any finds. But yeah, there's been definitely the op shops have been, which is kind of scary thing to say, but been pretty good recently. So I don't want to jinx it, but it probably will now. But yeah, there's been a few. Like I found around the corner from us, found a Nike basketball tee from like late 90s, which was like $6. So there's still things there which people don't necessarily think there are still, but there's still things out there. Yeah,
so people get an idea that aren't from Victoria. We got two main markets. We got Fitzroy Market, which I'm pretty much there every Saturday, like hunting through, and then we got Camberwell Market on Sunday, which I make sometimes just because it's Sunday morning. It's a little bit hard, but yeah, something that happened in my week this week was the Super Bowl. Last week, the Super Bowl. So we went to that as a group, as a team, which was good. But yeah, it was a good game, good match.
Oh, nice. Did you go to the pub for it? Like you went
so awesome. we get the whole all the staff to go on that sort of stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I missed it unfortunately because I was working at the store that I do a couple of shifts at. But yeah, it looked like a good game, and I think it was like a battle of two teams that nobody really minded who won because there was reasons for them both to get there, that it wasn't Tom Brady for once. So it was like it looked pretty cool, but yeah, and the halftime show looked pretty immense.
Also, another one would be Euphoria. This is probably one of the big topics today. But yeah, the new episode comes out tonight, which is Monday. So we're doing this podcast on a Monday morning, which is cool. I think it'll be coming out on Wednesday. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, man, I can't harp on about this show enough. Like, I'm 40 years old and I had no kind of like similarities to that upbringing whatsoever. Yeah. But for me, that show there's been so many series comes out on all of these streaming services that we have, and so many of them don't quite hit the spot. But the acting, the storylines, the individual characters, it's very rare that I watch a show where I'm like incessantly finding more amazing things each episode that comes out. It's just like it touches on so many like good things, and like I'm blown away by like the acting and some. I believe that like Zendaya's been nominated for some stuff just for an episode. And I won't spoil it for anybody who's not seen it, but just that one episode where it was pretty intense.
It sort of reminds me of Kids. Have you ever watched Kids before?
Yeah,
that was pretty
great film.
But it's sort of like same sort of vibe. Kids, and then if you've ever seen Skins before,
I did. It was I've seen bits of it.
UK.
Yeah, I'm from the UK, but it was kind of just after the era of me. Like I kind of didn't really watch much of it. Because it was like an in-between era for me, but
it was like early 2000s.
Yeah, so it was like, but I know that it's like, and it's launched some fantastic actors along the way as well. Like every time I see some good British actor, someone's like, they were in Skins. But yeah, Kids, I mean, phenomenal. Like one of, and you're completely right. And I made the same comparisons. Like I think if you were to say that if Kids was released now, they'd probably have a very, very similar narrative to Euphoria, and that whole kind of very raw. I'd say probably parts of Kids is still more raw than Euphoria. And
I like it because it's like based in like out in New York, like skate vibe. Yeah, like stuff that would probably happen if you were like growing up in like some city like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like that whole kind of similar premise of like. Don't want to say nothing to live for, but like that whole kind of like you don't care about what you get up to in life because quite honestly there's like little direction for you. So it's kind of, it's sad, but it's also extremely relevant that there's a lot of kids, especially in the film Kids, and if anyone hasn't seen it, we highly recommend it, but there's a lot of that kind of like engulfed in New York as such a big city, and these kids having almost like so much boredom in such an amazing city, but because they don't have the opportunity that some other kids have, that whole like kind of really pushing that culture of being free and I'll do what I want when I want kind of thing.
But that's why I sort of get the same vibe from like Euphoria though as well, like do what I want when I want. It's just like good. Moving sort of onto that would be like the fashion as well, like very similar. Kids and Euphoria, I reckon. Like a lot of the kids' fashion was like more sort of hip hop, like big baggy jeans and that sort of stuff. But I think it was like one of the recent episodes where what's her name? Sorry,
it's Rue.
Rue. She was wearing a mosquito head tee. I think you reposted it as well.
Yeah. It was quite surprising to see when I was sat there on my exercise bike in the flat watching the episode. I was like, shit, a Malcolm X mosquito head. And it was like another like sort of testament to the series as well, because I think I actually didn't realise myself until I read something about it, but it kind of led back to a conversation that she'd been having with Ali, the kind of like mentor she has in the series, and about Malcolm X, and it was kind of a good nod, which again is such a fantastic thing of how they like these little things that they do in the series that sort of link together. But I mean, mosquito heads have been a big thing in the last couple of 3 years in our world, and fantastic t-shirts, as we both know, sort of created in the mid-80s.
Mid-80s, and pretty much like because of the tee, they wanted like big all over it, like over prints for like band tees, like they do Bob Marley tees, like all that sort of stuff. But pretty much the value has increased, like you were saying before. It's actually increased to like ridiculous money, like $1,000 a tee. They're making a lot of like rip-offs of like the mosquito head, but it's all bleach.
It's all bleach based, so each one is kind of semi-individual. Like
they're all like off prints or something,
and it's like as you say, they created them for kind of movie and entertainment. I think there's a JFK one, there's a Marilyn Monroe one, there's like, so all of the kind of icons that people might have been rocking in other tees.
Big history, like tees and stuff like that. And 100%. also a lot of band, they got like David Bowie and shit like that.
There's David Bowie, there's an awesome Santana one, I think. There's a Clockwork Orange one. I didn't know all that much about them until I started seeing them on COVID Lives.
And then they had like also movie tees as well, like Fear and Loathing.
The Fear and Loathing one is probably the best one. I think that's so good with all of the Ralph Steadman artwork on it. So good.
And they probably wouldn't make like sort of tees like that today as well. Like to make something like that would be way too hard and not like as profitable, so people wouldn't do it, you know. I think it was even expensive back then. It was based out of Los Angeles. And I think at the start they were screen printing them themselves.
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah, I think a lot of
that's why I think there's like a lot of off cuts. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're all like they're not center.
Of which at the time was probably just like you say, and I think a lot of the reason as to why people are happy to delve into their pockets to buy one is because there's so much almost hand processing involved in it. And I think the fact that they were kind of looked at the industry at the time and were kind of like, we need something a bit more loud other than the boring torties, of which I said to you when we were walking up here, I was like, I'm pretty sure the 80s and early 90s torties were pretty rad as well.
Because I think they got on a live or whatever and they're saying, oh yeah, all the 80s and 90s band tees are boring, and I was like,
he was like, I mean, compared to now, where there's a lot of, not much thought goes into it, and you pretty much print someone's album cover at best on a t-shirt if you go to a concert. But I mean, you know that I'm a huge Magic Johnson tees fan, so which is all over print sports stuff. So I quite often reference to people like that the Magic Johnson tees are like the mosquito heads.
So the Magic Johnson brand, they all do those all over prints.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like they potentially maybe got their influence maybe from the mosquito heads, because mosquito heads was 1986.
And then they were like through the 90s were all like Magic Johnson's brand tees, which he did like Jordan ones and stuff like that.
Yeah, as well. Like at the time he had the license for everybody, of which now, if Jordan was still around, to get the license for like printing non-Nike related Jordan tees would be just like impossible. They're super cool. But like, I mean, the fact that they're showing that vintage scene within the show, obviously they know what they're doing with that. They know that it's a big thing at the moment.
Well, like how much is sort of trending now, like vintage clothing, like, or even like Fez, like they're still wearing fresh stuff, you know. All the cast are sort of wearing like fresh stuff, which is like, it's good for like us, I guess.
100%. It shows that business is still very much booming over there.
Even like the movie, like you could see in all their sort of rooms and stuff like that, there's like music posters all over the wall, like. Well, I mean, it's like 90s rooms, you know?
Exactly. Like, it's like the film mid-90s with all of that influence there as well. It's like you, like the last episode, which won't spoil it for anybody, but when they show them watching Stand By Me. I mean, Stand By Me is such a cult classic film. So to reference that, I think they're showing, what I believe, a lot of their influence in the series.
Well, they're linking the two, I reckon. Like, vintage, like sort of like vintage and like vintage movies, like vintage aesthetic, even the way they like film it, you know, sort of like film it, like totally. I'm not sure about the film like they use or anything like that, but it's sort of like grainy.
I totally agree with you. I think the writers are throwing in their own influence around, like, because things like Stand By Me is, again, if you think about it, in Euphoria you've got kids that are basically no rules, no holes barred, we'll do what we want. Stand By Me was a bunch of little kids in America exploring, doing the same sort of thing. Different vibe. There wasn't like drugs and stuff involved, but it was, I guess, like a
bit older version of Stand By Me.
It's like a kind of, we're going to go off and like hunt this guy's like dead body. We'll and not care what our parents or who might be thinking about, like probably saying no to that. And the same kind of thing goes on in Euphoria.
Yeah, that's like definitely what I was getting from it. But hopefully like that sort of, like having that show like sort of increases the trend of vintage clothing as well, like that.
I think 100%. I don't think we've seen the last of what they're going to bring in terms of the clothing thing for that series.
But moving on to that, it would be like even saying what happened this week at the Super Bowl, like all the Rams and Beagles, or I don't even know how to say the
Cincinnati
Bengals. Yeah. Anyways, like we're selling a lot of merch before that, and now like LA merchants are going crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like we saw it with the Last Dance documentary with the Bull stuff. When you
all trends, eh?
Yeah. More and more people are tapping into things like the Super Bowl just as like an entertainment show. Like I think for as much as the football, you've got the halftime show, but also, like you say, the fact that when a team wins, You probably even saw an upsurge in Braves stuff when they won the World Series. And it's like when a team wins, people want to rock that stuff, but they don't necessarily want to buy the new stuff because maybe it looks a bit like a sort of bandwagon fan.
Yeah,
whereas
well,
if you're
like,
buying vintage,
it's all like even the teas that they're making now aren't that great. You know what I mean?
No.
It's like, what are you guys up to?
Yeah, exactly. And people can also feel a little bit less jumping on the bandwagon if they're buying a 90s tee of the team
like
rather than a brand new one.
96 champions.
Yeah,
or whatever,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, but I love them since then.
Yeah. But you talked about the halftime show and stuff because that's the reason why I sort of love watching the NFL and stuff like that, or the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But yeah, craziest halftime show, hands down.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch it?
I've watched it on YouTube and yeah, absolutely nuts. I mean, like, just to think that, I think it was maybe a couple of years ago and they were struggling to find an act that would have covered everybody in the kind of audience of the Super Bowl to then go to that. And I believe Dre paid for a lot of it himself, is what I've heard. I think $10 million of his own money went into that, into staging that. So it was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
Probably, yeah. It was pretty much like, so if for people who don't know, it was like Up in Smoke tour, which was Dre, Snoop, Eminem, 50. Was it 50 Cent as well?
Yeah.
So like that, it was pretty much an Up in Smoke tour in the Super Bowl in 2022.
Yeah, which would have been like its 21st anniversary, because I think Up in Smoke tour was 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
So
it was 2001,
Yeah, so it would have been its like 21st anniversary, which is nuts for me because I remember like thumping that.
I was thumping that when I was young, mate. Like,
yeah, I mean, for me, it was like I was a teenager. I was like ending my school days and that music came out. So I think even entering uni days. So
lyric for lyric, mate. I could do every song in it.
Exactly. So
on your iPod, mate.
Yeah. I love the way we talk about iPod like it's retro now. It's like not on your Walkman, not on your Discman, iPod.
Because they would have had cassettes and stuff for your Walkman back in 2001, or was that like phasing out?
They were
phasing.
Back then? No, it would have been. Yeah, I think the thing back in 2001 was mini discs was coming through.
Oh, true. I remember.
So like, I lost mine off my mate's dashboard when he went round the corner too fast and it flew out the window. But mini disc was and again something that's having a bit of a revival because of its kind of sort of like niche period that it came around for. But yeah, mini disc would have been CD and mini disc at that time. Not quite as old as the cassette side of things.
But yeah, I think the performance was crazy. But yeah, I think moving on to that, Snoop Dogg and I think it's Dre maybe, they're doing the they just brought Death Row Records.
Yeah. I saw that, and there's sort of been some kind of up and down opinions on that, I think, to do with the Tupac shooting and Snoop's involvement in that. But he's quite openly talked about how he decided from a young age that he didn't want to be gang. He wanted to use his influence within helping himself and helping others and being in the music industry. So
even now in the NFT industry, because he's going to make for people who don't know, he's going to make Death Row Records an NFT. So like. Yeah, just an NFT. So they're just going to be doing concerts. I have artists under their label that are going to be doing like performances in the metaverse.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what there's like doing. He's like at the front of it. He's a leader in like NFTs at the moment.
Yeah, which is like crazy. And I think we briefly chatted about it. But like for me, I kind of sit on the fence with NFTs because I'm of that sort of mindset that I want something tangible. And if I go to a concert, I want to like feel like I want to be there, and I want to. But having done a little bit more, kind of like looking into it and seeing what it, and just discussing with you, even when you said to me, "Oh yeah, they're going to be doing things where you put goggles on, and it's like you're actually at the Super Bowl or you're actually at the Death Row concert." And for me, if they're doing it like that rather than just staring into a screen and watching it on a laptop or whatever, if that immersive experience is good enough, then that gives the opportunity for people, especially like you said earlier with the COVID thing. Gives the opportunity people to sort of almost feel like they're attending something there's then absolutely no way otherwise that they would get to.
Yeah, because like in the middle of COVID, like we still haven't really, like the music industry suffered through COVID at the moment. Like there's no like gigs and like that sort of stuff, but like that would have been a good like sort of platform to have, like if we were locked down or whatever, you know, you could just put on your goggles, like go to a concert, like pay whatever, $100 or whatever, you know what I mean?
I think I said to you that I was actually surprised that this didn't happen earlier, in terms of, like, from my personal perspective, seeing it from sporting events, like when you saw all those empty stadiums, it would take a little while to develop the technology as it is now, but why wouldn't you fill that with people paying a certain fee to be able to watch the game but feel like they're in a seat, but just having goggles on?
Because I think that's what they're trying to do, like, pretty much ultimately.
Which I think is a good thing.
Like, say you want to pay, like, want a front row seat to like a gig, say like the Death Row Records gig or like whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you pay for like a seat at the front, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might be sitting there with like 100 other people in your same seat, but you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like that.
And if they do it right, so that they can kind of give people the opportunity to experience something like that, at not saying, okay, if we're going to charge you $15 for a back row seat, but we're going to charge you $300 for a front row seat. I would probably dispute that. But if it's something where they're actually like, nah, you can all experience whatever part of the stadium you want for the same price.
Yeah, that'd be
that's
like
awesome.
way.
Yeah, I mean, whether that happens, I feel like it's something that they could do, because you could sell a lot of tickets for $15 for a front row NFT, rather than trying to make $300 off like third of the tickets. Yeah, so it's
that's why I reckon it's the way it's going, and he's going to be like the leader of that. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of happens there.
Be interesting that he'll be the leader of that, smoking a lot of blunts.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
because even in the halftime show, I think there was like a video leaked or something. He was like standing on the stairs before his performance, just like smoking a blunt. It was fucking a crack up.
I love it. And
I was just like, yeah, it's classic Snoop, because I don't think you're allowed to like smoke or anything.
No,
like, you're
I
like
don't
performing.
think you're allowed to smoke in the stadium.
Yeah.
So I know that obviously weed is legal there now. But another thing that I thought was really cool, again, going back to like the kind of like the touches that people are doing on things now, is like I saw a picture of the Up in Smoke tour and the halftime show, and the fact they both were like wearing similar colours. So Snoop had the paisley on.
I think they were pretty much wearing. Yeah, I saw the same photo. They were wearing all the same stuff. Yeah. So I was like, 50 Cent was wearing the singlet.
Yeah.
Like Eminem was wearing like sort of his normal fit. Like he had like, I think had a white beanie, like a white Nike beanie, but then I think he has his normal hat on.
Yeah, and he had the Jordan 3s, which people were going mental for the fact that they were seeing the Jordan 3s with the Eminem logo on it. And yeah, Snoop was wearing his paisley blue, which he had done out. So yeah, it's nice to see that people aren't doing these things and like brushing over those
the 1%ers, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, even like with the whole Super Bowl and stuff like that, there's another iconic moment. I think it was like Kendrick Lamar with the Louis Vuitton. He had the last Louis Vuitton, like it was like Virgil's last collection or whatever for Louis Vuitton, and he was wearing it, which is cool.
Yeah, that was super cool. I mean, I think like I have sort of eaten my words over Virgil, because I was not a fan of Virgil, but then after his death, I kind of did a bit more research as to the type of person he was, and I think by saying I'm eating my words, I think I feel like the media industry portrayed Virgil as this like constantly arrogant character that had used that arrogance to make his way to where he had. And actually, when I did some more research behind it,
he had too much voice, I reckon. You know, they had a lot of like voice.
Yeah, he did, but I think actually what he did behind the scenes and the things that he did, and again, you talk about the 1%, the details of the things he did, and also the details of the things he did while he was sick. Was unbelievable. Crazy. And like it's almost like he was paying it forward, knowing that he wasn't going to be around for much longer. So I actually have a newfound respect for him. And then so to celebrate someone like that, I know that the Rams quarterback dedicated the victory to Kobe, but I think to celebrate Virgil as well, with there being quite a fashion influence in that Super Bowl show, was a really nice touch. And I think a lot of people will in years to come,
we'll look back at
what
it.
They'll look back at it.
You even see it now. Like he probably, I think Louis Vuitton went through like a little strut or whatever, and he just like brought it back up.
Yeah, I mean,
all the stuff he's been dropping for the last few years has just been like
Yeah, I mean,
Crazy.
again, it went back to the fact that it wasn't even all that long ago. There was a quote from him that he was like, and you could see it in his collections as well. He was like, "Streetwear will die, but vintage will always have a place," and that was what he said. And he was like, "That's it's like streetwear will always have a place in my opinion as well. But the fact that now fashion designers are really, really, like Kim Jones, the same as like a lot of them are really, really delving deep into their archives.
Yeah, I think
shows you.
Yeah, I think they are doing that just because, I think they do it and then they take like bits and pieces because like, fashion's like been around for ages, but like the stuff in the 50s, like they're breaking stuff down, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, I'm going to take that and then give it like a new approach, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's the way like fashion's sort of going anyways, you know?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, it's like that kind of leads on to something that just a quick point that I'm actually, like, there's a lot of kids these days, especially that I'm seeing in Melbourne, that dress really well. Yeah. Like, I would not have...
Melbourne's probably got some of the best dressing people, I reckon, in Australia.
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think the younger ones definitely, like, I would never have been as experimental as some of these kids that I'm seeing. And I think it's got a certain thing, like, obviously coming from the UK, I feel like the younger generation of Melbourne are a lot more accepting of everything, so it gives the freedom for those kids to be more experimental with their dress sense and not be taking the mickey out of it, which in the UK that wouldn't be the case. So it's really, really refreshing to see like kids dressing like, I mean, I'm not necessarily into Jaden Smith's whole aesthetic, but kids dressing like that and being confident and saying, this is what represents me, and I'm going to get on a train going to Flinders Street and not care who...
But that's how you should be anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what they built in Melbourne, which is like so good.
Yeah, it is.
Like, especially for like fashion in Melbourne on the way up, it's just going to like improve it and people are going to be like, oh, let's go Melbourne to like...
Yeah,
on the street. Like, go. When I used to live in Tokyo, I was like, oh, I'll just go like have a coffee and like just sit on the street, watch people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like those were like Tokyo, New York, Paris. All those places were the best places to people watch, of which a lot of that, like you and I would have been to see their fashion and what they're rocking. But now, I definitely feel that Melbourne has that, especially with the kind of under 20s, has that ability to not just have to wear what someone else in a magazine or an Insta post has told us to wear.
But hopefully it's like, there's like, you named some of the big ones like New York, Tokyo, Paris and that, and hopefully like Melbourne gets in there soon, you know?
I think as long as the mid-30s guys can ditch the Havaianas singlets and board shorts, we're going in the right direction.
Also on another thing on the Super Bowl was Kanye West, mate. Your favourite.
Oh, man.
What did you reckon of the fit?
Oh, well.
And what do you reckon, how is he going at the moment? Because,
I've obviously never been a Kanye fan, but this is almost going to, like, quite tragic kind of levels now, to the point I think someone of his, I actually feel quite sorry for the state in which he might be in now, like the fit.
Do you reckon he's doing it for marketing though? I reckon it's all for marketing.
There's a huge...
I called it Donda. I reckon it was for marketing. Like there was no beef between him and Drake. Yeah, I called that at the start. And I was like, watching like 3 months, they're going to be friends again. Marketing.
Yeah, it could. Yeah. It could. If it is, then it makes me despise him even more, because it's like a real, because it's like essentially if he's doing it for marketing, then calling people out for affecting his mental health or whatever like that, then it's a really bad stance. If it is marketing, then the people around him have obviously got a very warped way of marketing, because essentially...
But it's all eyes, man. Like, you got to think about marketing's eyes. And
I mean, look, the guy in my opinion, the guy dresses like something from I Still Know What We Did Last Summer. Like, I think the actual fit is just like, I love the meme where they're like, this dude paid 50 grand to watch the Super Bowl through
with the
like, pin need. It's like... Look, there's no doubting that the guy has made an impact. There's no doubting that the guy is revolutionary in a certain way. For me, I think just because I'm of a older generation. It's just, if what he's doing isn't marketing and it's his own personality, he's going to be on an injunction order like soon. There's going to be an injunction against him from Kim or whatever. Like, he's on the verge of, I think, which I read is his own admittance, of hassling. And it's like, dude, if you're trying to protect your kids on one side, but then you're like really starting to kind of hassle their mother to the point that you're like sending, like, you're posting up the personal text messages between the two of you. I still think
so. What are you up to? Just like keep your stuff private, you know?
Yeah, it's like you don't need the assurance. Like, you don't need. I don't know. Like, I still personally, I think you could be right. There's a lot of marketing there. I think there's a lot of mental health issues, which is a very sad thing. And I don't want to denounce anybody's mental health issues. I think there's obviously still some arrogance in there, but how much of that is derived from his kind of like his mental health issues is something only he knows. But I just think it's not a good look, dude. A bit like the fashion. For me, like, where
I don't mind his fashion. Like, some things are good and then some things are like, you know what I mean? I think he's just trying to like be a leader in something, you know.
Which is not that there's nothing wrong with that, but I think on one of the posts which I repost, he called out Nike and the 90s. So for kind of Nike, especially for just throwing up the same stuff all the time. But then it's like, there's not many people out there that want to look like a serial killing bin man, I think is what I quoted it as. It's like, you look like, if I saw you in any, like, daylight or dark and I was on my own, I'd be scared that you were coming at me with a hook like out of a 90s horror movie. And it's like, be whatever you want to be, and anybody who wants to be as an individual as they want to be and own that. If he genuinely owns that, great. For me, it looks ridiculous, but that's only from a visual perspective. If I opened up my mind to the kind of individual fashion that I love, individual fashion, go for it. But I think you look terrible.
So, to finish it off, what's one thing you're looking forward to this week?
One thing I'm looking forward to this week, receiving another Magic Johnson tee as soon as FedEx get their arse into gear and deliver it. I've got a super cool Magic Johnson Jordan tee coming. Just like, man, just still the pottering around Melbourne and the hunt around Melbourne and the hunt of what I do. I think it's still, and it will be for you, even when you get, like, when you're doing like buys with people, the hunt and the excitement of what they're showing you and what something you might find is still really burning in me. And I hope that a lot of people that shop with you guys feel the same way. So that's like,
especially like my favorite job is like unboxing the boxes, you know. When I get time to do it, because I don't really do it too much anymore. But
on Saturday you were like, here's a box, you'll love this job, like, put these teas, and I'm like, let's have a look at what you got here. So those sort of things are always a good buzz for me.
Pretty much one thing I'm looking forward to this week would be just podcasting. Got a bunch of YouTubes this week, but big week of work, same old stuff. But should we wrap it up there? Thanks for coming on.
No worries, man, anytime. Thank you.
Sweet. Till next time, see you later, guys.